we can just call call the meeting to order tonight, Monday, March 22nd at 5:31. So, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Dina, if you could be so kind as to call the roll.
Okay, Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Present.
Rodlin Harris.
Present.
Don Hill.
Here.
Elizabeth De Winter.
Here.
And Dr. Lester Chin.
Here.
Thank you.
Excellent. So let's move on to the consent calendar. And all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Does anyone want to remove an item from the consent calendar? I actually would like to remove the statistical report, if I may. So if I could have a motion to pass the consent calendar consisting of the Board of Trustees meeting minutes. Could someone give me a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. And could someone second that?
I second.
Thank you very much. So Dean, if you could call the motion.
Okay, Don Hill, what is your vote?
Aye.
And Elizabeth De Winter, what is your vote?
Aye.
Lisa Diaz-Nash, what is your vote?
Aye.
Rodlin Harris, what is your vote?
Aye.
And Dr. Lester Chin, what is your vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are unanimous. And I was just interested, James, in, there seems to still be a fair amount of activity in virtual programming, particularly for kids. What are the librarians seeing in terms of trending?
That's a good question. I think what they're seeing in terms of, I haven't asked them that specific question, but I think that it remains robust. In order for us to do the reopening next at the end of this month, it is going to be all hands on deck. And so the children's librarians are, postponing the filming of new virtual programs for the month of April. And they're just going to keep the recorded programs available because we need everyone. But as far as the trends go, I believe, based off of what they've seen, there's been an adjustment. People have gotten used to having these options available. And that as we move forward towards a full reopening, that there will likely be some degree of continuance of providing virtual programming. So.
Great. I would certainly encourage it because I've heard lots of great feedback. And I would also encourage staff, as it's possible, to continue to gather feedback from whether it's adults, young adults, or kids, because it takes a lot of time and energy to put these programs on. And we need to have support for them if they are valued by the community.
True. I can add one more thing. I know that, Adriana and I were discussing whether to add certain ADA capacities to the children's programs, virtual programs. No one has asked for it specifically, and it is quite labor intensive. She said it would cut down the number of programs they could provide, but it is labor, because it is labor intensive. That said, we want to make sure that as many people as possible have access to the programs. So I advised her, she was looking into it, I advised her to get the staff trained on it and get them prepared. I don't know the details that go into providing captions and things of that nature. She just said it's labor intensive and it makes the recording process longer. So I advise her to learn as much as they can about it and to be prepared to provide that service or to at least consider providing it for some of the programs. But right now, no one has asked. She was just getting ahead of the issue to make sure that we are capable of providing additional access to the programs for any young people or families that may need that service.
Great. Thank you very much. And
You're welcome.
Liz, you've got a comment or
Yeah,
question.
I'm not sure where this fits into the statistical report, but I just wanted to relay that one of my friends who has a high school senior
Mm-hmm.
gave very nice feedback on the teen book Mixed Bag. And she said it was really popular with her daughter and her friends, and they love it. So they get the books and they actually trade them with their friends. Because I guess those are books they can keep. They're not actually.
Yeah.
So I just want to pass that along. I don't know if that's represented in the statistical report, but I thought I'd bring it up now.
I don't think it's represented in the statistical report. It might be, but Carla Avatable, our teen librarian, is the person who conceived of that program, and I think she had reported any of the programs that we did where there were sort of packages or kits that were pre-curated for the patrons seemed to be really popular. And programming for teens is just a real challenge at times, you know, for that age group. They're kind of tricky. And so I think Carla has done a fantastic job, and I think she will really appreciate the compliment from a family out there. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. And Rod, over to you.
Thank you. James, I don't know that you'll necessarily have the answer to this, because if you did, it'd be supremely impressive. Even more so, but I'm just thinking on the young adult virtual live programs in October, it had the highest number of programs by a little bit, but the number of attendees was almost exponentially higher than in any other month. Was there a particular program or programs that were very appealing? Do you remember? I'm just, because if there were, it'd be nice to know what got people's attention.
Say Halloween, James.
It may have been Halloween, but I don't know for sure, because I know that we did do some virtual Halloween programming. The staff also did like a little Halloween trick or treat in the park program in conjunction with Parks and Rec for that month. You know, if you're really interested, it's not a lot of work for me to follow up and find out, to at least ask why they think the programming, the attendance may have been higher. It may have just been that people, were in and it was still relatively, still not that deep into the pandemic. Well, I guess we were pretty deep. So I won't even hazard a guess. If you want me to follow up, I can follow up with them. It's not a big deal.
If you could, I'm just curious. It's 5, 6, 7 times higher than other months. So if you could, that'd be great. Thanks.
They're probably, Rob, with something like an anomalous number like that, there probably was something exceptional. You know what? Well, I'm not even going to guess, but I know we also had an authors event where a number of horror, what do you call them? Horror writers, like Stephen King types. They also did readings that month of their fiction, of their work. So I wonder if that may have had something to do with it too. But I can confirm that, no problem.
It might have thus been tied to Halloween if it was horror in October. And anyway, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Horror has been a top topic for about 12 months now, so absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, well then, are there any other questions? No, then could I have a motion to approve the statistical report?
Move we accept the statistical report.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, great. So Dina, could you please call roll?
Okay. Dr. Lester Chin, what is your vote?
Aye.
Elizabeth DeWinter, what is your vote?
Aye.
Don Hill, what is your vote?
Aye.
Rodlin Harris, what is your vote?
Aye.
And Lisa Diaz-Nash, what is your vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it is approved. Thank you very much. So let's move on to public comment. Persons wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may submit to the recording secretary a request to speak form. State law prevents the board from taking action on any matter not on this agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for further review. Is there anyone who wishes to make public comment at this time? Not seeing any. I will close public comment and move on to old business. And the first item is something we're all very interested, James, and I know our guest Monica Lee came early just to be able to hear this as well.
Okay.
The update on the library opening.
Sure. So, I'll provide this update, and I know that, I know that there's a portion of it that, we need to talk about a bit more. I want to apologize to Trustee Lester Chin because he had sent a request for further conversation on one of the aspects of it, and I did not follow up on it. I don't know what happened, but we could talk about it more after the end of this update. So, we have a full plan as well as a list of frequently answered questions or questions that we predict that the patrons will ask. So we do plan to reopen the lobby March 29th. The lobbies at all 3 branches of the San Mateo Public Library starting Monday, March 29th. The opening hours will be during the same times as we are offering curbside. So I think I calculated, well, I'm not going to try that. I think I calculated like 30 something hours per week across the city. Staff roles, we will have barriers. We have set up barriers at all the public desks, and we will have signs on the floors. In the beginning, the public will be allowed simply to come into the lobbies of the lobbies of the libraries to pick up their holds. They will no longer need to make appointments. We have allotted for 1 out of every 4 computer to be available at the branches when they're open, as well as at Main. We're using the computers in the children's area as sort of a makeshift computer lab. This presents some complications. And, one of the reasons why we decided the staff feedback as well as the management team's feedback led me to decide that we should have a 1-hour appointments on computers to begin with, is that we are going to have far fewer computers available than normally. And we have calculated that if we'll only have 4 computers available per hour per location. And if we allow people to have 1-hour reservations, that means that we can get 4 people in per hour. And our goal in the beginning is not to have people stay for a long time, but to provide a minimum amount of service and to provide maximum amount of access within that limited realm. We do not know how people are going to respond, so we may end up quickly increasing the time on computers back to the usual 3 hours or up to 2 hours until we get back to the 3 hours. We do anticipate opening fully on May 3rd. And in that case, we will still have limited computer access. We will have 1 out of every 4 chair available to people, just as we have 1 out of every 4 computer. We are right now working out how to mark off the furniture or store the furniture. When we open up the library again for full access, we really want people to be able to come in and browse comfortably, but we also are not going to be encouraging at that point for people to stay hours and hours, although some people may be able to stay hours and hours depending on the seating. But the idea is to mainly open up the library to browsing as we head towards hopefully back to full reopening in the next month or so after that, depending on how the COVID pandemic continues, and hopefully it will continue to go positively. We will have a greeter at the main library only. We don't think it's necessary at the branches. The role of the greeter, because we're going to have limited capacity just when we open the lobby at Main, and we think we'll be able to manage capacity pretty easily at the branches. But we think it's important to have a greeter there. The greeter at the door at Main will assure that patrons wear appropriate PPE, use hand sanitizer before entering, and they will also track occupancy using an iPad. And the greeter will be stationed at the welcome desk at the foyer, and the door will be blocked with a stanchion. The door will be blocked with a stanchion and will be held open, weather permitting. Based on San Mateo Health Department guidelines, all patrons over 2 will be required to wear a mask. Patrons that say they cannot wear a mask, at least during that first month, staff will be willing to grab their hose for them and check them out and bring them out to them. We are also providing staff with directions on staff are a bit anxious about if someone refuses to wear a mask or if there's an issue around that. And we provided them with instructions mainly to contact one of the managers. If it really becomes an issue, they may want to contact public safety. In the beginning, people will not be allowed to bring food in other than a closable drink in a container. And this is something that I want to bring up more, because I think part of the long-term discussion upon reopening fully over the next several months, or maybe the next couple of months, is whether or not we want to reevaluate the food policy in the library. I do know that right now that the cafe 3Bs has let me know that they are not interested in returning anytime before 2022. There's just too much uncertainty, and they just don't anticipate they'll be able to do much business. And so they have said that they're willing to talk about returning in 2022, and they're not guaranteeing that they're going to return. Originally, the food rule said that people could have food from the cafe, but that rule sort of fell to the wayside before I came, and staff were having a lot of trouble managing people bringing food in from other areas. So that's something we want to talk about as a potential reset when we do a full reopening. The other information the other information of concern is computer assistance at locations. This is really one of the trickiest aspects of us to work out, and we really fully haven't worked it out. We have access to software. First of all, staff are concerned about spending time close to patrons in the way that they normally would do to help them on computers. And some of our main computer users need a lot of help. So we felt like the best compromise that we could do was sort of 2 or 3 tier, which is staff would see if they could we'll see if they can help a patron from 6 feet away. If it's a quick answer, like help them print or something like that, that should be doable. If they can't do it that way, and it's more detailed, we are having software installed that will allow staff to remote into a patron's computer and help them from the reference desk. This is an issue because some of our people who need the most help may not be able to even work with that because they may not know their way around a computer enough. But we're hoping the remote help will solve that issue as much as possible. And worst case scenario, if that doesn't work, then staff is going to sit down on their computer and see if they can do whatever the thing is the patron needs for them. They are a little leery of that, but we really can't think of any better options. We are allowing walk-up computers for up to 30 minutes. Headphones will not be provided. Patrons must bring their own headphones. And let's see. The next phase of reopening will be to open all 3 floors at the main library, as well as to open the branches to limited access for computers and browsing. We anticipate this at the beginning of May, like I said, May 3rd. Seating will be limited. Furniture will either be taped off or stored or moved to the corners. Branches will be open as well. We have spoken to our janitorial contractor, and we have worked out with them an agreement where there's going to be additional cleaning and sanitizing of high-touch areas. And we are still giving consideration of Friends of the Books, opening a Friends of the Books sale area with the lobby, but I don't anticipate that's going to happen because we really think that we just want this first phase to be able to allow people to come in and get their items and hopefully move in and out pretty quickly. So that is our reopening plan at this point. Beyond May, we really don't know, but if we are in the orange or the yellow and things continue if we get to the yellow, probably if things continue to go well, we're just going to be figuring out each leg of the journey probably on a monthly basis. And it's possible that we could be fully open by June or July, depending on how vaccines go and how the pandemic, if the pandemic continues to go in the right direction. Any questions?
Thank you, James, very
You're welcome.
much. Rod, I see you have your hand raised. No, it's from before. Okay, down it goes. And Liz, over to you.
Yeah, James, I was just curious. You mentioned the Friends of the Library, and I guess for drop off of books, we're not going to start with that, but will people be able to buy books, when you enter on the left side?
No, not with the initial lobby reopening. I'm looking at the document as it was written, and we just finalized it. We have not made a, let me say this, we have not made a final decision on the Friends of the Library, even a week in advance. We've been going back and forth. But I do believe that we're not going to open that. We will make that decision tomorrow, but I believe that we're not going to open it because it's difficult. It could be difficult for folks here to understand, and to be honest with you, it's a little challenging for me to understand the degree to which some of our staff members are still worried. We're following the health orders, and health orders say that people can be allowed in the building. But we do have some people who are over 65, and I don't know if they've been vaccinated yet, but I think it's more of a mental thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that the best way to approach it is that we're going to keep the Friends taped off until we allow browsing throughout the entire building, which will be May 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lester, over to you.
Yeah, just one question, and I'll save my comments for later. Are these, so at the last meeting, you had given some consideration to whether it was tier-based? So are these dates is like the May 3rd date tier-based or based on some other criteria?
Well, yeah, so we were weighing that, and then we just decided that first of all, we knew that the tiers may change quicker than expected, and they did. We're in orange already. And so I guess you could say they're loosely tier-based, because if we were going strictly on tier-based, we would open the whole building right now. And according to the orange, because we are, throughout this whole pandemic, the people making the guidelines have not known where to place libraries, and they've been a bit inconsistent. So they've placed us with retail. And according to them, retail can currently have full capacity. Now, there's a couple of reasons why we can't have full capacity. Number one is, like I said, we're trying to be sensitive to our staff getting used to it. getting used to having people back in the building after a year of operating under a completely different service model. And then the other issue is that, you know, people don't behave in a library the way they behave in retail. They typically in retail don't come and spend hours, many hours in the building. And then the last thing is just the very complexity of pivoting. You know, after being in a sidewalk, a curbside service model for a whole year, it is a very complex process to pivot the whole organization. So we're using the tiers as sort of a quasi guide, but we're also doing it according to simply when we can get things ready and done. Simply according to and that includes, I guess I should say, scheduling, bringing people back, adjusting people's schedules, talking to the labor representatives to make sure that they are comfortable with the plans that we're making. So I guess you could say we're using a quasi-tier. We're using a tier as a quasi roadmap, but we're not strict. We didn't strictly say we're going to do this at orange or we're going to do this at yellow. We took that example from I want to say Los Altos, but ultimately we decided that it was too rigid and that it didn't work well with the fluidity of the situation.
Okay, Lester, do you have any other questions? No. Okay, Rod, did you raise your hand for a
Yes,
question?
this time I did. Thank you. James, I'm wondering, what is the capacity of the smaller branches, Hillsdale, Marina? I guess what I'm thinking about is, and maybe I'm mistaken in this, I would imagine that those are, since they're much, much smaller, and is it much more likely that parents would accompany children to those branches? So, you know, the capacity would be that much more constricted since it's like two people for one, kind of. I mean, and so that might be a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a problem for some of the people that want to attend. But just, I guess the overall question is, just in general, what are the capacity as stated going forth for those branches?
So, you know, that's, Rod, you know, that is one of our biggest difficulties. We have not been able to figure that out because we know, you know, and I don't know these numbers off the top of my head, there's the official, like, capacity that we get from safety agencies, like the fire department. And those are basically based upon how many people can pretty much stand up straight and not be 6 feet apart. So we're finding it challenging to accurately count the capacity. So one of the things I did in Main Library was I went and I counted all the chairs on each floor, and I counted 577 seats. And a quarter of that, if we were at 25% capacity, was 114 people. That's when we were thinking of that. But then there's some thought that we should use some other formulation based upon the numbers that are listed on the walls in different rooms that are provided to us by the fire department. We have not calculated the capacity of the branches for a full reopening. We're saying that at the branches, just like we're saying at the branches that we will allow 8 people. And we're saying the same thing with the lobbies at once. The process of figuring out the capacity for allowing people into to have full access to the facilities is one that we're currently working on. We don't know exactly how to calculate it. We don't know.
Okay, do you have any other questions, Rod? No?
But we will know by May 3rd.
There you go. And let us know. Yes. Okay, Don, you've got a question, it looks like.
I have 2 small questions. What is the staff required at the neighborhood library, when it's open, how many people do you have to have there?
We've decided that we will have a minimum of 3 people. One library aide, which is the person who primarily does materials handling, shelving, etc., things of that nature. And probably a library assistant and a librarian, or a library aide and 2 library assistants. Sorry about that. Library assistants can answer light reference questions. So we can use a library assistant at a branch in lieu of a librarian, but there are some people who are concerned that when it comes to the computer questions, that we may need a librarian. Right now, we're going to start off with 3 at each branch. We're going to probably start off with 2 library assistants and a library aide at Marina, because they don't get a lot of traffic and they don't get a lot of in-depth, I think, computer questions, whereas where Hillsdale is more busy. That's more than you asked for. So 3 people.
So does that change on the time where people can be picking up books, or is that always 3 people at the libraries? How does that vary?
Well, I think, in the normal circumstances, you may have 4 or 5 people working there. Some of their shifts overlap. I think I think under normal circumstances, say there was an emergency and we were short on staff and we had to open, the rule is that you have to have a minimum of 2 people. If there was an emergency, we were short on staff. But under normal circumstances, we would probably have at any given time 3 to 5 people there at once.
Okay, the other question, when I've gone to pick up holds in the past,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's been very unclear how they were arranged.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just suggesting that if people are going to go in and picking up their own holds, there should be some kind of a simple way, a sign or something, so that people know how they are at least supposed to be organized in the shelf or wherever it's being kept.
You're right, Don. We, in anticipation of that, I mean, we've thought about everything about like how to steer people to the holds, how to keep people from the browsing areas, how to steer, like, Hillsdale is pretty straightforward. They've moved some of the holes over to around where the computers are. And so when you come in the door, we're probably going to use some sort of shelving to say, this is the only way you can go. And when as well as some signs, as well as some tape on the floor. And when you come in, you go to the right, and those arrows are going to point you to the holds, and as well as the computers. I still think that there are going to be some people who are going to have some questions or may get a little confused because it is a different setup. But that's why we're going to have one staff that is always available and free to sort of be that guide to help people to answer questions, directional questions, etc.
Thank you.
Now, Lisa, I'm not sure if this is the right place to introduce this, or we're going to wait till later. I know there was Lester's question about the.
Yeah, I've got just 2 quick questions before
Sure.
we can go to
Okay.
comments. Yeah, so my first question is, how does this plan compare to the plans of other libraries in the Peninsula, broadly speaking?
Oh, wow. That's a very good question, Lisa. We just, we meet weekly or bi-weekly. We pretty much weekly, I think. I meet with Peninsula Library directors on a weekly basis, and we share our plans, our confusions, our questions, our frustrations. And I have to tell you, it really varies from library to library. So at Redwood City, they were initially saying they were going to open for browsing March 15th. Now they're saying they're going to open April 15th. And that's probably just a matter of logistics. Things happen, you learn something, maybe you have to go back and sit down and talk with the union, that slows it down. I know that the county is planning to they're planning to open everything, including provide full access, I believe April 15th, where people can browse starting April 15th. Then there are some others who are not planning to open even their lobbies until May. And so it is very contextual. And I know that Burlingame is maybe one of those. Their city manager is urging them, based upon my conversations with their director, to be extra cautious. And she wants to see other libraries open and try it before they're willing to try. So they're looking at May, to the beginning of May, just to open their lobby.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And my second question is, how are you planning to communicate your plans to the public?
Okay, so an announcement was made. Well, the first announcement was made a couple of weeks ago at the at the city council's office, and that story, I believe, was picked up by the Daily Journal. Then we made an official announcement last Monday using all of our channels, social media, our newsletter, as well as signage, I believe, not 100% sure. Social media, our newsletter, our web page. And I know that another bit of information, we actually made a special newsletter. You know, the newsletter, it was in between cycles. So we made a special newsletter email that was sent out to all library card holders who agreed to get emails from us. As of right now, I don't know of any other plans to, go to any local locations or post up signs or anything like that. I don't think we've done anything like that. We've pretty much just used our channels that we usually use, putting it up on our website, sending a newsletter, informing the city council, and letting the Daily Journal know.
Okay, thank you. Liz, did you have another question?
Yeah, just to piggyback off that. So if I have a hold that's ready to be picked up, will I get a notification when I get the notification my hold is ready that I can go in, and what hours I can go into the lobby?
I don't know if I would think that notification would say the hours that we're open, but I don't know 100% sure, Liz. I could check on that. Yeah, I don't know if the hold notice is actually going to say, but I typically don't like to say I think and I guess, but I really do believe that is being planned for, because typically when we send out holds notices, I think we share the information saying these are our hours of operation.
Okay.
And I think that would be the same.
And the website, I'm sure that'll be updated to reflect maybe what those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see no more questions, so let's open it up for comment. And I think, Lester, you've got a comment.
Yeah, I have two. I think, so James, I think your apology is noted, but probably not really needed. I think you're just a gentleman. I think there's a procedural question we don't have to discuss tonight, but I'll leave it up to you and Lisa. I'm fine discussing that separately. Instead, I think my comment it's actually it's an ask. I want to sort of closing your eyes is optional, but imagine this. Imagine you're trying to make an appointment for a vaccine shot.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that you're trying to do this online. Imagine now you have no ability to save into tabs or your bookmark history any of the multiple websites, right? It's not a single website. There's like multiple websites where you can try to get a vaccine shot. And imagine that you are trying to click refresh every minute or every 5 minutes just to sort of see if you can get your spot in a queue. And, so the reason I asked folks to imagine this is, and recall that we voted on the broadband digital divide being like our #1 issue to advocate with for the state government. So separate from the procedural question, like I think my advice on the computer use is there's a potentially very big difference between what the computer is used for and like browsing of the physical media. And, kind of, I'm just imagining like, hey, sorry, your hour's up. When folks are like, I have no access at home, all the resources to get this vaccine are online. And is 3 hours going to make a difference versus 1? Hard to know, right? It's unknowable. I'm not asking you to know, James. It's literally unknowable. I don't know, you don't know, because, but I think for this use case, this scenario, like, for like 3 people in 3 hours, 3 people trying and failing, is not much of an accomplishment. Like 1 person getting through, even if 2 others don't, is better than all 3 not getting through.
Right.
So I think that's something to consider as you and staff roll it out. So that's comment #1.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying? No, I'm making a different argument, right? Like this is not. I am just. That is my. I think. Separate from our procedural conversation, right, and reading about the challenges to roll out and hearing about, hearing from friends and acquaintances who've tried to do this, for their, for their parents. I usually, I think I'm of the generation where we are tech support for our parents.
Yes.
And it's a struggle.
Yes.
And it's a struggle when they have the advantage of they can do it at home in the morning. They can bookmark the websites versus having to.
Yeah.
If you use one of the library computers, you cannot save your bookmarks, right? You have to start over from scratch every single time. And I'm not.
I got you.
Right.
Yep.
So it's an extra hurdle of like, I need time to reset it all up. I need time to hit refresh. Because I'm trying to get in line, right? So.
Okay, so I have a thought. I have a response for that. Are you ready?
I'm not looking for a response. It's for your consideration.
Well, you know what? I would say that we considered those things, and that. Well, first of all, let me add this. We had originally said 8 people in the lobby at Maine, but it's 13. So I just want to make sure that's accurate. Okay. We had considered that. We had considered the challenges. We know 1 hour is not going to be enough time for a number of people. And I think that, without boring everyone, so many of the things that we come up with, they create a problem someplace else. And so then we say, this is a great idea, but then it causes this. Like, for example, we give people 3 hours a day on a computer, and we're only open for 4 hours. And someone says, well, I wasn't able to get an appointment today because you only have 4 slots and they're taken for the day. So if someone were to come to me and say, this is my issue, I would say a couple of things. I would say, number 1, see if staff can help you to find a more efficient way to do that. But the main thing I would say is this: we know it's not perfect, and that we're asking for our patrons to bear with us for a month, to let us get things started. We had to go with good enough. And with so many competing priorities, it was really a challenge to land on anything. And everything that we landed on, you could say, well, it could cause this problem, or it could cause that problem. So I would ask that patron, I would say, I know it's an inconvenience. If it's about your vaccine, let's see if we can have a staff person help you on the phone. They may be able to do it on the phone for you, using their computer at the reference desk, maybe walk you through it, or maybe go through the page with you. I know that vaccines are time sensitive, but but I would honestly say, you know what, this is the best plan that we think that we could conceive to help as many people as possible at a minimum level. Is not what we usually do, and is not what we will go back to doing. But we just had to. We wanted to move quickly to get services up and running again. And I imagine that maybe after the first week, if we find that there's not that many people coming in, there's not that many people hogging the computers or anything like that, that we may be able to quickly pivot and say, let's move the appointment time to 2 hours en route back to 3 hours. Or we might be able to do that. We might just be able to just say, let's just go right to 3 hours. I think we just wanted to dip our toe in the water a little bit to see how it's going to look when we open the doors. So that may be unsatisfactory to that person, but that would be the honest answer.
And James, I appreciate like these are just basically, these are different policy choices, right? There's a choice of broader but shallower, right? Or there's a choice of narrower but deeper, right? And neither is correct or incorrect. These are just choices.
So yes, I agree, and I think, so just to fill everyone in, I think there was, I think there's a bigger discussion, that the trustees need to have. The pandemic created a very unusual situation. And typically when we work on policies, we have months to talk about them. Nothing much changes day to day. And I think on a couple of occasions during the pandemic, I think, one of the first things was when the couple of staff members decided they wanted to do a pilot for the Chromebook Cafe after Kathy had sent it to me. And they moved very quickly on it. And I think there was some discussion about, just for using those Chromebooks, it was, they wanted to start off at an hour. And so I think it's led to this, where it's sort of a gray area, and I certainly want to respect the Board of Trustees. I think the big question is, I think what Lester's trying to say is the library, is by me saying, you know what, I think we should start off with 1 hour instead of going right to our normal 3 hours. Is that a policy question? Is that a temporary adjustment? How do we handle that? And we had never had to handle it before. And now
Well, I'm actually deliberately trying not to have that conversation.
okay.
I'm just trying to, again, I think you're right. We need to have that broader discussion. Don't have time tonight.
Totally.
So I was really just saying to advocate in a different way, based on a parallel track to this question, right? Just hearing about experiences with people trying to sign up for the vaccine. I just want to make sure we talked about that use case.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've certainly been thinking about this a lot, Lester. I certainly have.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The second comment was, I think on the tiers, I want to clarify. Yes, I hear you that following the retail guidance on tiers doesn't make sense. When I asked about tiers, I think we can set our own conditions. Like when the county is in orange, the library will be like this, right? It does not have to match retail. However, I do think there's the benefit of the clarity of understanding outweighs, or I guess put another way, like an A+ strategy that is not well understood to me is not as good as like a B- strategy that everyone can kind of okay, I get it. Right. I think the complexity of how is the library making these decisions and where do these dates come from, right? It's a challenge. If you say hey, we're at orange, we're going to be at 25, whatever, 8 people in the lobby or 25% or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the same as retail.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? But it's still tier based, right? Do you see the difference?
Yep. And that's what Los Altos went with. And we had an extensive conversation about that. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know if what we're doing is right. All I know is that we're building our wings on the way down, because we've never been in such a fluid situation. We've never had to make so many calculations, so many decisions, so many deal with so many variables and knowing that the landscape could change in a week or two. So you could very well be right that that is a better way to approach it. The only thing I can say is that, you know, we landed on this, and I do take considerable feedback from my managers because they're just a smart, sharp group of people. We landed on this because we surmised that putting up something saying this is when we're going to open based on this tier, this is what we're going to do based on that tier, would lock us in a way that if the landscape changed, then suddenly most people are understanding, but suddenly we will have maybe perhaps some of our most ardent patrons say, you know, you said this and now you're changing it. And so we feel like moving ahead, at least for the foreseeable future, it is better for us in most cases to say, we will be doing this around this time based on these factors. And it's not ideal, but we think it gives us the flexibility we need in case something occurs, in case there's a setback, in case we get a call from the union saying we want to talk a little bit more about some of the changes that you're making and the exposure that is going to put staff in. So I guess we're cheating a little, but we want that, we need that, we think that we need that flexibility. We don't want to be tied into a hard set calendar when we don't know what's going to happen from week to week or every couple of weeks. So I think it's a trade-off, and we elected to go with that other trade-off. Now we're going to see if it's better or worse. And if it's worse, I'll be the first to say we should have gone with the tiers, and now we know better. But at this point, we think this way is the best.
This is what is known as testing, right? It's real live testing. And we're going to find out, and we're going to learn from it. It's going to inform what we're doing. So better or worse, I don't think saying better or worse is the right way to manage it. Lester is proposing something that is, you know, simplicity, clarity of communication versus being more, you know, patron-centric and being muddier in the waters. And there are pros and cons to both. So,
and we talked about them.
So I think this is a great conversation. Liz, what comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's far better to jump in than be the one on the sidelines saying, let's wait and see what everyone else is doing and how it works out. I think it's brave to say it, and, you know, we don't mind being among the first. No, I think I'd rather go this way and then maybe do a little at a time till everyone's comfortable.
Thank you, Liz. I think that there are some libraries, and I'm just not going to name them, but I think there are some libraries that are sitting back and saying, well, what are you guys going to do? And then they're probably going to let us be the guinea pig. I think, you know, either way, you know, either option you choose, there's a trade-off, and you're going to get some kudos and you're going to get some critiques. And I just think that's fair. That's just how it goes. We just decided we're going to go in with this now. And I don't mind saying that we are probably going to learn some things that we thought were going to work in theory that didn't work, that just don't work very well. And we just have to own it. And we just have to say, we thought this was the best thing going in. We didn't really know what to expect. And maybe we were too cautious, or maybe we weren't cautious enough. But now that we know better, we're going to do better.
Other comments from folks on the topic? Okay, I guess the one last comment I would make on this, because this is an update, we don't have any kind of a decision right now, is that a number of us participated in Day in the District, which are the lobbying efforts with our state and national legislators. And broadband and technology equity was either the number one concern or the number two concern that we shared with everyone for exactly what you're talking about, Lester, that whether it's in a pandemic or not, libraries are central and community centers that give people access to life and potential, because so much of what we do these days is on the internet. So if you don't have a Chromebook and you don't have access, you are blankety blank out of luck. And that was reinforced in a very, very fundamental way. And all the legislators took it up. They supported it. They're, advocating for our positions. So it's certainly what we need is more resource. What you're suggesting about how do we make it's an incredibly difficult decision, but I think that's something we have to continue to really talk about, is the role of libraries as bringing equity to our community, and not just talk about it in terms of computer access. So, Rod.
Yes, James, I appreciate you not mentioning any of the libraries that are preferring to stand on the sidelines, other than the one you mentioned a few moments ago. But I really quickly, I want to say that, policies are all, as people have said here, it's a trade-off. That's what a policy is. It's a trade-off between different variables. And I think the approach, particularly the last thing you mentioned, that there are going to be some stumbles, but when a stumble occurs, to just take it head on and say, hey, we learned from it, we're moving forward. People realize this is obviously unprecedented. And I think people are going to be cutting a slack. So as long as there's not behavior that is a little, shall we say, irresponsible, people are going to be they're going to be understanding, they're going to be accommodating, and they want to come back. So they're, I think, willing to, I don't want to say push the envelope, but kind of go with it and see what happens. And if something goes awry, it's a learning experience. It'll be great. Thank you.
I hope that is true, because we don't have any other option. As my brother says, life is not a rehearsal. So we're just going to have to go and see how this goes.
There we go. We're looking forward to learning. Okay, well, I think that unless someone else has any other comment, we will move on to another topic, James, for you, the visual and audio recording of library board meetings.
Okay, so we've got Dina here, and she may have to chime in to fill in some of this, because she's working with the city clerk's office. Basically, we were not, if you all recall, I'm sure you do, in the earlier months of the pandemic, there was discussion about recording the meetings. Do we want to do it? Do you want to do it? And I thought that it was presented that way, by the city, like an encouragement. And I felt like in a way it was presented that way this time. But I just asked the city clerk outright, because she said this is what the other boards do for transparency, etc. Sorry, guys, but she said this is just what is expected. There may be some flexibility on how it's done. I don't know for sure, but the city expects the Library Board of Trustees to, once we reopen to face-to-face meetings, to always do a visual and audio recording of the board meetings. They're already being recorded via Zoom, and that's pretty easy. But there will need to be recordings of the meetings in person, using a camera, using a phone. And it's one of those things that is not optional. It is, along with the next thing, it is just something that the city clerk's office has said that this is what's going to be, this is what is expected of all commissions, boards, and the city council. And let me know if you have questions, because I think Dina may know more about how they plan to do it than I do.
Dina, would you like to add any information before we open it up?
Well, it would just be a matter of the technical procedure to how to, because if you go to the public meeting portal right now, you'll see some of the boards and commissions have video posted. So you just click, just the way you can, click on your agenda or your packet right now, you'll be able to click on that. So it'll be working with them to learn how to do that. And then just starting to do that.
And then also being able to go back into the record after the meeting and watch the meeting.
That's what it'll be. It'll be the actual video recording of the meeting on the website.
Yes, and the whole point is for greater transparency. She just said it will be, I think one of the things that was discovered during the pandemic is that you could have more people attend or at least have access to the meetings if they're recorded and available, the trustee meeting.
Don, did you have a question?
I had a comment and a question. Well, maybe an idea.
Okay.
I think if they tell us we have to do it, we have to do it. We don't need to talk about it. But I think it's crazy. Unless we do something different than we normally do. And I'd like to suggest the possibility that we might think of our meetings as having maybe a half an hour that's set aside for library to help our citizens understand how to use some of the resources that they don't know how to use. In other words, something and say, hey, I'm going to watch the library board because they're talking about something that could be helpful to me or my grandmother or whatever. Because I don't think there are 12 people in San Mateo that are dying to watch a video of our meeting.
Ah. Well, I think there's an idea there and there's a comment. You're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So any other comments or questions?
I guess this question,
Yeah.
I mean, to echo Don, like, look, Patrice has given us our marching orders. So at some point to use the old phrase, you shut up and you salute the flag. That's fine. I can do that. Is there any other, as we're being recorded, are there other expectations? Like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Dress code, like certain ways we conduct the meetings, anything else? We might as well just get all on the table while we're getting our marching orders.
Some of those things, Lester, I think, I doubt there'll be a dress code, but, I think we all understand the dress code once we go back to, civilized living, post-pandemic living.
What do you say about the way I'm dressed? What do you say about the way I'm dressed?
Doctor, I like the fact that you are color coordinated with your wall. I always have.
But I think some of these things we're going to have to figure out once we all sit down together at a table. But the good thing is that I think there are precedents, and I don't know if the other commissions, I don't know if you know this, Dina, obviously the city council meetings were being recorded. Were the other commission meetings already being recorded prior to the pandemic?
Well, the city council for sure. I don't know about any other boards or
Planning Commission,
Planning
the
Commission.
Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously they offer some best practices that we can piggyback off of. To me, I don't see it as anything to be a big worry. We'll just have to get used to it. And who knows, Don, we may find those 12 people.
I actually think Don's idea about, devoting a piece of the meeting, maybe it's not every meeting, but at least some, about talking about the services, all the online services, all this and that. I think it's a really great idea.
Well, I think from a staff standpoint, I think that's fine. If we know in advance, we could line up 12 staff representatives to come and do a sample. And I think we've done that periodically before, where we've had people come and say, we have a new program or a new service, and this is how it works, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, just do a spotlight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Liz, over to you.
I think I read something about post-pandemic that we're going to go to a hybrid model, and I don't know, does that our meeting will be on Zoom? And then another thought is, if we're going to record our meetings, isn't it easier just to always be on Zoom? Why get together in person? Because we never really had an audience to begin with?
So I think that actually, I think it's a very good question. I think that's something I've been thinking about myself, Liz. Like, as far as some of our city meetings where I go over to City Hall, we've all found it pretty easy to fire up our computers in our offices. So, I hesitate to say what we can do. What I do encourage is the board thinking about what you might want to do. And if you feel strongly that, you collectively, you might want to just keep it as a Zoom meeting, I think we would have to just put it before the city clerk and see if she's open to it.
I mean, my feeling is one, our current Zoom capabilities required a executive order from the governor, right, to override the public meeting laws.
True.
Second, having already been told once by the city clerk, hey, here are your marching orders, I am disinclined to like experiment and just like, hey, what do you want us to do, right? So if hybrid is the standardized model that Patrice wants for all the meetings, then let's hybrid along.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's worth asking a question and
Yes.
getting clarification.
What's hybrid mean? What specific is that?
Hybrid means the board meets in person. Maybe if there's someone who can't make it, they can Zoom in.
Yep.
And it will be broadcast, if I'm correct, live.
Okay.
It will be broadcast live so that people who cannot come to physically join the meeting, they can watch it while it's happening, and maybe they can participate via Zoom.
Got it. I misunderstood. So thank you.
No problem.
Is it half this way? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the underlying goal is transparency and giving as many people as possible the opportunity to participate. And that's what's so great about Zoom, that so many more people are participating in local government and commissions during the pandemic because they can. But it's, how can we continue to push that? So thank you, James. So do we need to take a vote, or is this an
No.
FYI? This is an
It's an
Okay.
FYI.
No,
I just want to make sure, want to be clear.
it was a vote of one. Patrice voted, and we're just getting the election results.
That's great. Well, it's a good thing then that this is pre-streaming live. Okay, so let's move on to new business. And James, once again, over to you about standing calendar for library board meetings.
It's the exact same thing. It is a directive from the city clerk's office. And she just said that moving forward, we need to be aligned. You all need to be aligned with the other boards and commissions. The other boards and commissions have a standing calendar based on a calendar year of meetings that they do at the beginning of the year. Traditionally, the library has done this each fiscal year, and that tradition precedes me, and I think it actually precedes Dina. So we don't know exactly why we were different. I think the library board was different in some ways than other commissions, maybe just because maybe it seemed like we were just our own little entity over here, but now they want us to be consistent.
I don't think you were different all the way back, James. I think at one point everybody was doing it this way.
Okay.
The other one, so.
Maybe they switched. Okay. Well, now we just need to have a calendar that says, we meet the fourth Monday of each month. This is the day. If there's a holiday, the meeting will be on a Tuesday. We don't have a meeting in December. If that's what you all want to decide permanently, or if you just want to do that at the beginning of the year. And it is a standing calendar that will be listed with all the other boards and commissions meeting calendars.
And we can choose to cancel a meeting.
I don't see why not. Yes, you can, because
Yeah.
yes, you can, absolutely. Other boards and commissions do cancel meetings when they feel that they don't have enough business or any, business that needs attending to that month.
Right. Okay, so any questions or comments? James, I think,
Well,
yeah.
I guess so what do we need to actually do? Like, I'm not sure, like, do we need to Yeah, James, I'm kind of
So,
lost. Like, I get it. We
okay,
need to have a
sure.
standard, but what do we need to change? Do we need to like list out the meetings for the rest of the calendar year? Do we?
I think Dina is just going to handle it. I think
Okay.
now on we'll list it. The calendar will be posted at the beginning of the year for the whole calendar year. There will no longer be a vote on whether or not to have a meeting in December, since it's always voted against. And it will just be a calendar that says we meet on the fourth Monday. Dina, is there anything else that they need to do?
No, that should do it. Right now, in June of each June meeting, we're just agreeing on what we want for that upcoming fiscal year for the meetings. And we post a document that has the specific calendar. But now it'll just be just a general announcement on the website and also on the city's website that our meetings are on the fourth Monday of each month. The only meeting that usually holiday would conflict would be Memorial Day. So if the holiday falls, if the fourth Monday falls on a holiday, it will be held on the following Tuesday. And
Okay.
that we don't have a meeting in December. That's
Okay.
so then we're not revisiting it every June.
Got it. So you'll set the calendar. You will know the list of federal holidays, right? Because I remember this year we had a bit of a kerfuffle with Rosh Hashanah, but that's not a federal holiday. So you'll be the one determining when it goes to a Tuesday or not.
Yeah. The whole time I'm going on 6 years at the library, and it's only been Memorial Day where there's
Okay.
ever been a conflict with a holiday, and so then it's been put over to the
Okay.
following Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. So I think that matter is taken care of. So now let us move on to welcoming our guest, Ms. Monica Lee, who is representing the San Mateo Senior Citizen Commission. And she is going to share with us the progress, what Age-Friendly Cities idea is, the progress that's been made, how San Mateo is involved, and how we might all work together. And so Monica, let me turn it over to you. And I think Dina is going to elevate you to a co-host so that you can share your screen with us.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me here today and in the cause of age friendliness in San Mateo. I don't know how familiar everyone is with the Age Friendly project, so I thought I'd put together a little, where is it? A little screen. Did I do this right?
We can see it.
Okay. A little PowerPoint just to give you a little bit of a background and then get to where we are today. So the Age Friendly initiative here has its origin back in, there's a typo here. In 2006, the network of age-friendly cities and communities was established by, let me also put this here in the proper place, by the World Health Organization, and in this country, in the United States, the AARP is the US affiliate of that network and is administering the age-friendly program in the United States. The AARP facilitates the community's enrollments, the various cities and counties that are enrolling in the program, and it guides the representatives of the communities through the network's implementation process. In the past, the World Health Organization was much more active in this. In the last year or two, they really relied on the AARP for the most part to carry this out. So the question for every community is, why become an age-friendly community and city? And the basic benefits of this is it's intended to help people live easily and comfortably in their homes and communities as they age. The communities are encouraged to consider the impact of their programs, policies, and actions on the older adults. So everything a city and community does would be looked at through an age-friendly lens, basically trying to make sure that that's one of the factors that's considered when decisions are made. And older adults are encouraged to take more active roles in their communities and to have their voices heard more and more loudly. The AARP and the World Health Organization have basically identified 8 what they call domains of livability that should be considered when looking at age friendliness of a community. And these are pretty self-explanatory: housing, outdoor spaces, transportation, communication and information. I can't read the bottom, I'm sorry.
City.
Yeah, I need to go back, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Yeah, this is not working well. I learned how to click forward, but not how to go backwards, so. Here we go. Anyway, so these are the 8 domains of livability that I looked at in deciding what to consider when making the city community more age-friendly. San Mateo applied to the AARP in 2020 in September and was approved after the city council approved the plan to apply for the age-friendly program, and is now in the process of trying to implement and comply with the various requirements that are imposed. In the application, the city identified 2 immediate projects and 2 longer-term projects that it wants to carry out in connection with its efforts. In addition, San Mateo will be required to submit an action plan within 2 years of the acceptance into the program, in which it then explains the city's overall approach to making the city more age-friendly. And the whole program contemplates that it will be completed within 5 years of the beginning of the program. The 2 projects that are presently being implemented consist of this. One project is concerned with safe walking routes for seniors. And basically what the purpose here is to accelerate the repair of sidewalks that represent tripping and falling hazards for seniors particularly. And to implement this project, the Age-Friendly Task Force is working with the city right now by providing information about the routes that are most likely to be traveled by older adults, so that the city can use that information when it makes decision where to allocate its resources to achieve sidewalk repairs, with the hope that the areas where seniors are out and about get some priority in that process. This project is underway right now. The second project that's being implemented now and that I'm particularly concerned with is referred to as the coordination of communication about local regional senior services and events. What the task force found in the many focus groups that were conducted before making the application was that the citizens in San Mateo simply don't know what all is already available to them. There's just not good information being distributed to the people that need it. So what we're trying to do is find ways of getting the information out to the people that really would benefit from having it. And then there are 2 future projects that are contemplated but won't be attacked really until after we're done with COVID. And the two proposals are the following. One is an intergenerational programs, the idea being that the city should make greater efforts to provide communications and interactions between younger people and its older adults. And the second is a business-friendly business recognition program, recognizing businesses that are particularly looking out for older adults in providing their services. That would be done probably with the Chamber of Commerce. We have the people in the city that are presently involved in implementing this is basically the task force, of which I'm a member. The Parks and Recreation Department and the Senior Center have a role, so does the Senior Citizen Commission. We have some assistance from the villages of San Mateo County. The San Mateo County Commission on Aging is also looking into how it can assist the city of San Mateo and the other cities in the county that are involved in the program. Councilwoman Amorans Lee is very interested in the program, and very recently we've spoken to Sue Lamper, and she is interested in putting an article out and making this more well-known effort in the city. So the reason I'm here today really is to tell you a little bit about our coordination of communications project and to enlist your help and assistance maybe in this particular effort. The program as it is now, we have established a list of organizations that publish periodic newsletters that basically include faith-based organizations, neighborhood organizations, civic organizations, and housing complexes that serve primarily seniors. And we also have prepared a list of topics for short articles that we will be writing and then providing to these organizations so they can include them in newsletters that they publish, most of them monthly, but sometimes it's at different intervals. And we have started to draft these articles. So for instance, one of the early articles will be about the Get Around Senior Rights program that's administered by the Senior Center and the Rec Department. And the article will describe how to apply for it, the features of the program. And then we are planning to interview some of the San Mateo seniors that have used the program and to also include a little bit about their experience in these newsletter articles that we are sending over to the various organizations for inclusion in newsletters. So the question here now is, how can the library help with this? One of the articles we are planning is going to be about the services offered by the library that are of particular interest to older adults. And we are hoping to learn from you and from the library staff what we should emphasize, what might be good candidates for inclusion, and who might be perhaps good candidates for interviewing and getting some input from your patrons on how they enjoyed the services and how useful they are for them. So what we'd like to hear from you is, what do you think is most of interest to older adults in the community in terms of the services you provide, and that you would like to have people know more about. Personally, I love to read ebooks, and I'm very happy that you can adjust the size of the ebooks on Kindle, and I find that is a service that really is of great help to people as they get older. But there may well be more important things that the library offers. There's a lot in the technology area. There are delivery services, I realize there's a lot that you might find deserves mention and publication.
Sure.
And also perhaps the library can help us with disseminating the information about other programs. I know you have newsletters and bulletins, and I know that, you know, when the library was open, there were things posted on the bulletin boards, and maybe there's a way we can, you know, coordinate with the library and the senior center to get more information out to the people that really need it. And then as to the future project, the intergenerational programs, I'm hoping that perhaps there can be some cooperation that helps feature the library as a focus for bringing together citizens of all ages. And that, you know, the library may be able to have programs that foster the interaction between young people and older adults. And you may have many great ideas in that direction as well. So that's the background of why I'm here today. And the immediate interest, of course, is in getting the information to the various people out there that need information about services in the city, and we'd like to feature the library, and we'd like to know what you think should be emphasized in what we write about the library.
Okay, what's the first step for me? Shall you and I talk after the meeting? I mean, not tonight, but
Right.
at some later time, we could talk in more detail about it. Are there any questions you want me to answer right now? Give you some ideas, or are you just sharing that for us to talk later?
No, I'm very happy to be here to be able to tell you what we're doing, and to
Sure.
generally, I'm hoping there can be more cooperation in terms of this age-friendly project overall. You know, in some cities in the county, the library is actually one of the agencies on behalf of the city that's very active in implementing. That's not the case here in San Mateo. It's the rec department here that's sort of officially the supervisor of this thing. But it does take, I think it takes everyone in the city really to make it work in the long run. And this initial project that we're undertaking is just a start. It's just, you know, to focus on what's available already, and to make the people that are providing services talk to each other and make that, you know, known to the public.
Well, a couple of quick thoughts. I would love to talk to you more about this.
Yeah.
I do think that, you know, one of the issues in our society here in the United States, a very young country that acts like a teenager sometimes, is that we do not value our seniors enough. And so I do believe that it just sort of happens a lot, that a lot of the programs at the library are inviting to seniors, as far as, like, you know, the lectures and things like that. They're inviting in the sense that anyone can come and seniors can be a part of it. I do think that we could do more to specifically target senior interests. I think that, however it happens, a lot of times libraries end up being the services tend to be more heavily geared towards sometimes children and families. And I'm not sure exactly how that always happens, but that seems to be a case at a number of libraries. So I would like to see us do a better job, and I think you could help us do a better job at addressing some of the things that you showed. There are some things that we're already doing well, like we do provide training on how to use ebook readers. You can make appointments. A lot of seniors take advantage of those. And I think a great challenge, and if it could work, would be somehow to bring intergenerational programming. That would be an exciting challenge to me, because I think there's something really lost when we have programs for seniors and programs for kids and programs for teens, and we don't allow that cross-pollination of experience and ideas and youth and wisdom. And I don't know exactly how you do that, but that's a fantastic challenge that I would embrace the opportunity to take on that challenge if it means we work with the senior center, because that's probably why Parks and Recs is the main liaison, because they run the senior center. But I am sincerely open and interested into collaborating, and I think that we have some people on staff who you'll find out they're doing quite a bit of good things, and maybe we need to find ways to better market it to seniors. But they also would welcome the opportunity to learn from you and other people on how they could do more.
Well, I'm so glad you're saying that. That is very encouraging, and I really, I would like to cooperate with the library. I know you have much of what you do is very much of interest to seniors, but they don't always know it's there. And then of course there is this whole option of being a focus for intergenerational interactions, which is so important. And I think if we can work on that in the longer run, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Excellent. Don, over to you.
I have just three short comments. Number one, thank you, Monica. I think you did a great job helping us get a sense of this program. And I think it's very exciting that the city is plunging into this. Second comment is that personally, I think trying to get into an intergenerational kind of piloting ideas as part of this program, it would be terrific, a great thing for the library to do. And third, maybe this is for later, but I think exploring, kind of brainstorming possibilities for the library to help support this program could be an agenda item, perhaps for our next meeting or one of the next two meetings, to kind of build on it. So I think I think our group probably has a plethora of really nifty ideas to throw into the bin.
Hear, hear. Other comments or questions from other trustees? Okay, then I guess I would just like to, number one, echo what both James and Don said. I think age-friendly cities is such an exciting concept. It's a global concept, and it really gives San Mateo an opportunity to connect with the rest of the world and best practices and intergenerational, but also to really, while it is absolutely with a focus on seniors and our elders, it has benefits very clearly for everyone in their own world. I'm on the Measure S committee, which talks about streets and sidewalks and all that. Well, the way you, as you said, Monica, fixing the sidewalks is not just to help seniors not trip, it's to help everyone. The way you cut curbs helps people in baby carriages, people in wheelchairs. It's age friendly. And I think the fact that that name was chosen is a really important thing. So I think it's so important, the potential. And I think it's also, as you'll find when we do talk at future meetings, and Don, I encourage it, the idea of putting it on a future agenda, that we've already been talking a lot about how do we really put elders and seniors at the heart of everything we do. Because the library really wants to be a center for the entire community. And that means job guidance, that means education, that means access to the internet, that means bringing all of our communities together and creating community. And what we have found, particularly during the pandemic, is that a lot of our seniors, part of why they've said they love the library is not just because they're getting books or services, but because it's a place where they can find community. And we really want to live up to that and respect that. So I am all for looking at opportunities going forward and working closely with the commission on ways we can do that.
Well, thank you so much. In the short run, would I talk to James about which services you'd like us to feature and what you think think is most interest to your older patrons?
Yes, we could have a phone conversation. We could meet for coffee. You could email me, however you prefer. If you want to I can give you, Don has my email. So how about if
Okay.
you take Don's email, take my email from Don, contact me, and then we'll talk about the best way for us
Great.
to get together.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's great.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very, very much. We are
Well, thank you
excited
for,
about this.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Okay, well, then why don't we move on to our last item, which is reports and announcements. And James, as the head librarian, why don't you give us your report on that you already haven't given us?
So the first month.
That Rod has his hand up, I think.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't
sorry.
see that, Rod. Thank you, Don, very much. Thank you. My apologies, Rod.
Not accepted. Thank you very much, Don. I really appreciate that. No, I do. I wanted to thank you for the presentation very much. My question is, there are a number, as you mentioned, of cities in the county that are members of the that are technically an age-friendly community already. And I saw that Foster City was one. And I'm just wondering, since they're our neighbor, is there any discussion or is there any possibility of kind of joint projects? Does that kind of thing work? Has that been explored? I'm just curious about that because obviously there is some commonality, but yet we're a different city.
Well, did you raise an interesting question? There are 6 cities in the county right now that have applied for the program. Another 3 have just been starting the process. So pretty much soon all of them will be in the program. Each city makes its own choices of, how to arrange it for projects and on all that. Each city has to supply its own action plan going forward. But coordination, I think, will be very helpful. And that's where the County Commission on Aging is looking at right now.
Okay.
I'm on one of the committees there too. At how can the county and how can the County Commission help coordinate the various cities' efforts, and how can they exchange information, and how can the county, make sure that everyone stays on track, and this is a successful program. So yes, clearly, across the city, yeah, obviously, if there's libraries that people may want to go over there and do something, there clearly are some connections, but the programs in each city are separate. They don't plan together to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. Any other raised hands? Okay. Well then, thank you again, Monica, and we look forward to learning more and partnering as we go on.
So do I. Thanks.
Great. And James, over to you for your report.
Sure. So I want to begin by saying that on Saturday, March 20th, was Senior Management Analyst Nicole White's last day. I'm just sharing this now because Nicole asked for privacy and discretion. It's very simple. Nicole and her family decided to move back east, to move out of California, to find a cheaper place to live and to be closer to family. I adore Nicole, and I always will. She was fantastic in her job. She was fantastic from the moment that I worked with her. We do have good news. She's a big loss. We do have good news, and that is that I was able to appoint our volunteer coordinator, Marcia Mendoza, as the Senior Management Analyst. Now, to explain how that's possible is each time there are positions opening, there are employment lists. When the positions are filled, those people who are on the list are, the employment list lasts for 6 months. And as fortune would have it, the last employment list for the management analyst position had 3 people. 2 of those people had gotten opportunities within the city and they were appointed, and the last person on the list was Marcia. It couldn't work out any better because Nicole had recommended Marcia as someone to appoint temporarily while we recruited for the position. So when I found out that I could appoint her and put her on a year's probation and give her a chance to do the job, I was thrilled to do it. Marcia, 2 years ago, finished her business and accounting degree from UC Merced. She's been with the library for 8 years. She's done her job at every single position that she's had there, from administration to volunteer coordinator. She's been fantastic. And she doesn't just work at the library. She feels very much a part of the library, deeply invested. So I'm sad to lose Nicole. I'm glad that Marcia, who has waited so patiently and done everything that she's supposed to do to deserve this opportunity, will be getting an opportunity to step into that role and show what she can do. And I am very confident that she is going to do extremely well. We have recently, last week, I learned from the city's lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Yes, San Mateo has a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., that a number of us departments could apply for some earmarked money from the office of Congresswoman Jackie Spears, and there was another representative whose name eludes me. We could ask for up to $50,000. And it was not, unlike a grant, it was not a very long, detailed process with a lot of, it is a detailed process, but it wasn't filling out, 40 pages. And there are not a lot of stipulations over the years. So we were encouraged to ask for it. I filled out the application form. We have not gotten approved because they have not fully even looked at the form. They've actually asked me for a little bit more information. But I did request $50,000 to see if we could get monies for laptops, Chromebook laptops, more MiFis, and to help pay for more of subscription of the MiFi units. So I don't know if we're going to get that money, if we're going to get part of that money, if we're going to get none of that money. I mean, public safety is also asking for resources, et cetera. But we were encouraged to apply. And if we were to be able to get some resources from that, we would be able to increase our efforts to help close the digital gap and provide that access that has become so vital to everyone. And as you all know, we did finally receive 35 new Chromebooks that we had waited months for, and Gary had set them up. And I was thinking about this when we were talking about access to the computers in the library. We have a whole fleet of brand new Chromebook laptops. Thank you to the foundation. We used the money from last year's Fund in Need. We have a whole new fleet of Chromebook laptops that are being rolled out right now, as well as new MiFis. So even if the person doesn't have, if they don't have wireless at home, there's never been a better time to come to the library and check out a laptop and check out a MiFi, because we have a whole new set of brand new ones. The last thing I want to add is just an update on the home delivery service. It has gotten off to a modest start, and I want to qualify that. That is okay with us. That was kind of what we wanted. I think if you all recall, when we first rolled it out, we got something like 5 people. It's only just over a month old. We did do a soft rollout, which meant that we advertised it through our channels. We didn't really push it out big because we were concerned about an overwhelming response. At this point, there are 10 people involved with the project. So over the first month, it went from 5 to 10. The patrons signed up for their first home delivery on February 9th. And let me see, fortunately, so none of those home delivery holds, and they placed their first holds that day, but none of them had came in quickly, or they were unable to pull them quickly. But by the next week, they were able to deliver 6 holds. And as the program expands, there are 20 slots. So we are hopeful that the program will expand to 20. And what I was told was, beyond our initial marketing steps of the library website, city council, etc., now the librarians who are behind the program, the 2 librarians administering the program, plan to expand their marketing efforts, because there are obviously open slots, and they want to see what the response will be. So now they are going to more senior specific locations. They say they're going to go to some grocery stores. They're going to go to some non-English speaking communities, and they are going to push out the marketing to more locations. And of course, I welcome recommendations on places where you think they should put them. So right now there are still 10 slots in that program. Last, I want to say that I had a good conversation with Chayanth. I always mispronounce her name. Chayanth Goff, the director of Palo Alto Public Library. And one of the things that came up was that I told her we were rolling out our home delivery program. She told me they've been doing it for years at Palo Alto. I asked her how they did it. She said they mostly use volunteers. So I directed our staff to reach out to them as another resource. Because if we can, the initial numbers we put up were for more staffing time, et cetera. And that still may be necessary. If we can find a way to make this a mostly volunteer program, and I know that Donna said that she ran some sort of program like that before, but it was just a small handful of volunteers. We still have a considerable amount to learn about what the demand is going to be. But if the demand stays within a scope where we can make this a volunteer-led program, and if there still was some questions about liability with volunteers using their cars extensively, if we can do that, then this may turn out to be a relatively inexpensive program that will help a considerable number of people. One caveat is that we may need to look at when we present our final report, even if it is a volunteer-centric program, we may incur some expense because right now our volunteer coordinator is a part-time job. And according to Marcia, she frequently did go above and beyond those hours in order to meet the commitments. So if we were to add another program and potentially add more, we may need to look at making the volunteer coordinator position full-time, which is what it was when Donna Devotee was at the library years ago. It was a full-time position. But right now, it is gradually picking up steam. It is very manageable. The demand has not been as high as we anticipated and we're a bit concerned about. And now they are ratcheting up the marketing to spread it out to other areas and make sure more people know about it. Like Ms. Lee said, and we'll see what happens as more seniors more senior homes begin to open up, more seniors get their vaccines, and if the demand will start to go up as more seniors learn about it. That's it for my report.
Thank you very much. Lynn, why don't we ask you to go next? Welcome.
Thank you. Sunil and I were playing tag team. I spent the better part of my day today at the library, which is always fun to do. It's kind of a treat because I don't spend most of my days at the library right now. And we were filming in preparation for gala program. And I just want to say, it is going to be joyous. Rod was there. Both Sunil and James also dropped by. I saw James in a tie. That's a rarer sighting than it used to be.
Been a while.
Still looks good. Still looks good.
Thanks.
So there's music. There's dancing. It's really kind of exciting, and I just want to say we're about a month out now. It'll be a month from tomorrow, 4 weeks out, and it would be a crime to miss it. So I want to lead with this idea that I would really like to have you as ambassadors for the library really think about making sure that our community hears about this evening. And it's very special because, as you all know, under normal circumstances, this is a bit of a swanky affair, and we really only have room for about 250 people or less often. And there's cocktails and, you know, all a nice dinner and everything. This is fun, and it's 1 hour of your time. And it's going to feature just all of the things that we're missing about community and the wonderful things that our library does. So, and it's free to register. So I really just would like people to join us. I think once they see all of this, they may feel generous, but even if they don't, we just want to talk to them and tell them how great their library is. And I think it will be a feel-good moment for everybody. So at the very first, I want to say, everybody please sign up. There are premium ticketing options, which are kind of fun. So if you sign up for a $500 or more ticket, that's one device, which means you could have as many people as you want on that device with you. You get invited to the trivia challenge that Paul Vaughn and Michelle Baute are running for us on Zoom after the main party. And it'll be about a half an hour. And I think it's going to be a hoot and a half, California themed. And we'll plan some kind of fun prizes for the winning team. If you donate $1,000 or more, then you get the opportunity to bring some other friends and additional devices on to bolster your team's prowess and trivia astuteness on that particular thing. But we also have a little gift basket that we're sending out, and people at the $1,000 level will recognize the signed books that we have for our authors. We have 2 outstanding authors this year. We have Anna North, who wrote Outlawed, and we have Pam Zong, who wrote How Much of These Hills of Gold. That one was longlisted for the Booker Prize. So this is really great stuff. Wendy Vorsanger, who is our Literary Society connection, also is a debut author. And so she wrote Prospects of a Woman. All 3 women have rewritten the Western genre to suit some very interesting and new perspectives. So that's going to be fun. I want to thank all of our sponsors, including BOIA, who stepped forward with a very nice gift this year. And I really hope that we are able to take groups like that, other homeowners associations and local groups, and make them aware of this and let them know that they can come and see all the wonderful things that their support does for the library. I will be at some point, did not happen today. I thought perhaps I'd have some time to be sitting at my computer while people were shooting video, but that's not how it worked. But I will be sending you some information that you can share with people. Whether I think you're probably already getting our emails, but if you haven't, we've sent out 2 constant contacts so far. Maybe they're in your spam folder, I don't know. But I do have sort of a regular flyer. And so I'm going to provide that to you. Got a special invitation from me about a week ago, letting you know that registration was open. And, take the information that I send to you and feel free to forward it. If you want to make some flyers and drop them off at places that people gather, we'd love that too. We're thinking about doing a quick round of bookmarks that people can pick up when the library opens next week with their curbsides and the browsing that they have. But basically, please just to help us get the word out, because since we're not charging a hefty ticket price this year, it really is important for us that people show up and experience it, because I think they're really going to have a great time. And let me think. So that
you have to remind us the date and the time.
No. I was just going to say, so the date is April 20th at 7 p.m. at 1 hour. And the information that I'll send you will have all that in there. And then the only other, and by the way, it's also, thank you library, on the library's website right now. Again, because we're not charging money for it, anybody can sign up. That's very much a library thing. And we'll be using social media with the library channels, as well as the city of San Mateo. And I wanted to say it's really nice to meet Monica. I'm Lynn, by the way, with the foundation. And, you know, we get requests for our programming oftentimes from many of the senior living arrangements where they would love for us to send people to them that we have featured at the main library for the residents there that often are less mobile or confident. And I would really love to work with you about any of the contacts that you have for some of these places to let them know that this is a virtual event, and they will see a sample of some of the programming that we oftentimes offer at the library. I think they'll be impressed. So if you'd like to give me some names of people who might be interested in knowing, I'd love to work with you about that.
Sure, be happy to.
Thank you. And then the last thing I want to say is that April 7th is Library Giving Day. And we will be running a special sort of what they call an asynchronous marketing campaign during National Library Week. And Library Giving Day is, I think this is the third year, public libraries across the country fundraise on this day to raise awareness with their patrons across the US about how they can support the public library. So we are going to have a push on that day, sort of like our Gives Day. And I will probably be reaching out to you and other people in the community to see if maybe we can set up a small matching gift. We're not trying to detract from the gala. It's more to build awareness and drive registrations, but sometimes it's fun to have a match out there and see if people want to donate on the day as well. And that's pretty much everything that is going on right now for the foundation, is that we are extraordinarily busy. There's lots of other things going on, but nothing that I think I really want to tell this group about. And I just, again, want to express my gratitude to James and his staff for being so flexible and accommodating for us, because they really are making our job of bringing the good news of the library easier, and I think the program is going to be better because of it. And the other thing I just wanted to say is that it was an absolute shock to me to hear Nicole White, and I am going to miss her terribly. Like you, James, I just really respect the heck out of her. She is a intelligent, just great all-around person to work with. And your team, I know, will miss her. But you know, I'm impressed by the depth of your bench, and it's really great that you had Marcia right there and somebody to give this opportunity to. So I look forward to working with her as well.
Thank you, Lynn.
That's it. Thank you for indulging me. You'll be hearing from me more and more, so thank you.
And everyone, that trivia contest is going to be fun. It's going to be real fun. So Liz, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I tuned in for the meditation in the 21st century that Michelle Baute organized, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done. And that also I thought would be a nice thing, that type of thing would be nice for the seniors. So, and I also attended the Day in the District with Jackie Spear.
Great, thank you. Lester.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Don.
Nothing to report.
Okay, Rod.
I have 7 things to report. No, just kidding. 3 things. Number one, I want to echo what Lynn said about the gala. It's going to be a great commercial for the library. It's going to be a blast, and it's going to be an hour. So I think on all accounts, it's just going to be a wonderful, wonderful way to clearly show the library's commitment to the community and what a treasure it is. Secondly, I did have the chance, and thank you very much, James, for letting us know about those days in the district, if you will. 2 things on those. Number one, I really thought that the time we had was obviously just a half hour. And in at least 2 or 3 of them, I was really kind of intrigued by the fact that the host said, gave this a long opening statement and then said, does anyone have any thoughts? And there was silence. And I thought, you got to have every second account. You got to tee up the first person, because there was silence. And then the conversations kind of went all over. Everyone kind of talked about the reinstating the $1.8 million removed from the budget, which is, less than a penny on a dollar when you look at it compared to the overall budget. But I also do, in all sincerity, want to commend James, because there was a lot of talk in those about, the library's scope of services expanding. And it was James specifically in this most recent one that just basically, I shouldn't even say basically, overtly said, there's a lot of talk about expanding services. We can't do it without more financial support. You got to give us more financial support. Now, James, I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but that's in essence what I heard. So I thought that was very apropos and much needed. And then finally, I just want to reinforce Don's point earlier. I think it would be an outstanding idea to have kind of, my words, Don, not yours, an educational component to the meetings or to the in some manner, because obviously that would help us in terms of advocating the library, but it also might be a good kind of a public relations tone, if you will, in terms of letting people that might not view these meetings or know about them find out something, might give them a reason to tune in. So I think that was a great point, and I support that wholly. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess just to wrap it up, I want to echo everything that Rod said and James said about the day in the district. It was 4 different representatives: Congresswoman Spear, Liz was with us for some of the time, and then State Senator Becker, Assemblymember Mullen, and Assemblymember Berman. And we were clear in our message, but all over the place in terms of organization. And when James hosted Senator Becker, he made sure that we knew what we were saying and how we were saying it. So just hats off to you for making the best use of the time. But I think the good news is that everyone was 150% in support of libraries and what we do and the role we play, both in terms of being the heart of the community, as well as, and I will always throw it out there, potentially in the future, playing a larger role in civics education, which is so important in our country at all times. So I think we definitely represented ourselves well, and thank you, James, for doing that. I guess I would also say that in terms of future items for the agenda, to just be clear, I think we heard from Don wanting to talk about, is there an educational role that the library can play, or the library board can play, to both educate the community as well as attract more people to our meetings. I think looking at, is there a way of running our meetings in other different ways to attract greater participation would be great. I think we want to bring up the concept of, that Lester had talked about, how do we deal with making sure that the library board is really on top of and leading the discussion in terms of policy, while also giving the library itself maximum flexibility. And so I think that's an ongoing discussion, but one that we really do have to start. And I think thirdly, specifically talking about how do we support the work that the Senior Citizen Commission is doing as a library board, as a foundation, as the library itself. I think those are all areas of very fruitful discussion that I'd like to see us address. So that is my, and then I see James has got his hand raised. I saw that 3 different ways. Thank you. And you got to take yourself off of mute, James, if you want to talk.
So I would like to suggest a couple of things that I think are time sensitive, for our operational purposes. I cannot stress this enough. I don't ever want the library board, I don't ever want it to seem that I'm doing things without allowing you all, supporting you all to play your proper role. And I think that, in fumbling my way at times through this pandemic, there were definitely some gray areas around the policy thing that came up. And the silver lining is that I think that it gives, it means that we have to work out these things that need to be worked out. So number one, I would like to ask that everyone here strongly consider a discussion at the next meeting on updating the policy of policies. And, you know, as a little bit of a suggestion, I think what I've gotten from this pandemic is that there are normal times where the board makes policy and we can sort of stretch out, talk about them philosophically, and really dig deep into them. And I think a couple of things that came up during the pandemic that really need to be figured out and will help me to know how best to handle this in the future is how to handle sort of short-term changes that may be 30 days or 60 days or less that, you know, that occurred like in the case of the pandemic where we just had to pivot and try something like what we're doing just to get the computer services off the ground. The other thing would be, and I don't think this is as urgent as far as, you know, coming to decisions, but the other thing would be how to handle things like pilots in the future. Because obviously we want to be able to be agile and work on pilots, but at the same time, if I know clearly the best way to go about this, to present things to you all, and then to tell my staff, if you want to do a pilot, this is what you need to expect. This is sort of how the timeline goes. It would help me in the future. Help me to help you help me in the future. The other thing I wanted to add is that I wanted to share some things at the next meeting that also are not urgent, but we do need to probably figure out within the first couple of months of reopening. And that is that the library staff has asked about the reconsideration of some policies, which I could bring to the next meeting. But among them are food in the library post-COVID and baggages. You know, we had a situation where some people, one person in particular represents the extreme, but he comes every day. He'd probably bring like 5 trash bags full of stuff, and he would leave them unattended on the second floor and go all over the library until I told him, you need to keep your bags with you. I ended up bending on the rule because he couldn't carry that many bags with him everywhere. So I said, could you just tuck them away? Well, the staff did ask me, and I want to talk to them a bit more to see how serious they feel about it. But there are some libraries that have much bigger issues with people bringing stuff in. And they set a limit on the size of the bag you can bring in. And so those may be things that I would like to bring to you the next meeting and say, these are some things that we may want to reconsider and talk about as far as policy considerations when we reopen. And I think that needs to happen pretty quickly, at least the beginning of that discussion.
Okay, well, thank you, James, very much for that. Does anyone have any more comments, questions, things they want to share? No?
A comment and a question.
Yes.
So in addition to a long list, I would say maybe in the June or July timeframe. I would like us, so this isn't urgent, but I think it's important, it's symbolic, right? Which is, now that we have this mental health officer, or I don't know the formal name, for us to revisit that part about our policy that talks about when we call the police. Now, is this ever gonna, how often does this happen for the library? Like rarely. So I do recognize it's more of a symbolic gesture, but you know, why not, right? Like I think if there's been a lot of conversation in the 12 past months, like national conversation about what is the role of police. This is within our sphere of control. Let's send the message we want to send.
Actually, I think staff have questions about that too, Lester.
Oh,
so
okay. Well,
we
great.
probably make that call 4 or 5 times a year. It's not every month or every week, but it does happen. And
okay, that is more than I expected. I thought it'd be like once every 2 years, but
no.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like, okay, so it's more relevant than I thought, but yeah, so I think then it's probably an important conversation, a little bit more urgent for us to have. The second, I guess, this is a question. I wonder if we could just spend like 3 minutes, like, what's our protocol when we get an email to the library trustees mailing list? Like, is somebody on point to respond? Like, how do we handle this, right? Because and the reason I ask is just in all transparency, there's been a, you know, a relative deluge of traffic in the sense that we've gotten 2 emails in the past like couple months, which is versus like 1 email in the past 2 years. And one person actually wrote to follow up like, hey, you know, did you get my message? So I think probably because we don't get that much email, we don't really have any practices around this, but like, what do we want to do? Like, should just, so I mean, just to kind of get it going, like, it could be like, hey, you know, we assume that whoever's present at the time responds, or, you know, if anybody's so moved, they respond and just let people know, like, but I just feel like we should not let the public feel like their emails went into a black hole, but did want to discuss publicly how we want to handle this so it's transparent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to add anything? All right, well, if not, then I will say thank you to everyone for a good meeting, and we all look forward to signing up for the gala. And I call the meeting adjourned at 7:42 p.m. Thank you all. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Right.
Bye-bye.
I